the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Ref's View right here on the SM Media Podcast Network. I'm Scott McPike. It is always a pleasure to be your host, and before we get into discussing the weekend's action, I want to thank our sponsors, Beeks, Roxburgh Group and Exacta Concrete Flooring for their support and allowing the podcast to get going every week. It is a pleasure as always to be welcomed by Steve Conroy.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. We are hoping to be joined by Des at some point. He is running fashionably late, but Steve, a busy weekend. A lot happening. The first, I messaged you on Sunday night, and I think it's the first game since I've started the show where we've had incidents in all 6 Premiership games.
Yeah, and funnily enough, it comes after a weekend where we said nothing happened. So it's always the way. It's feast or famine. Some of them explicable, some of them not. So it'll be interesting to discuss them.
Let's start in the Championship, though, because did you see the news breaking during the week that Neil Lennon, who going to Dunfermline I thought was quite baffling to begin with, but he signs Victor Wanyama?
I saw that. Even my Dunfermline supporting pals didn't see that one coming. And we thought that they would have an explosive, that's a daily record word, introduction, but maybe not quite as explosive as the one they had.
It was certainly fascinating. I mean, obviously, the start of the Victor Wanyama era at Dunfermline was a trip to Ayrshire, where they took on Ayr United, who are obviously pretty much rock solid for a Championship spot. We will just say he lasts 20 minutes before he gets sent off. He gets sent off, I think, in the 77th minute. It's 2-0 Ayr United. The game is done. Is it just stupidity? Like, is it a harsh, straight red? Is it denying a goal-scoring opportunity, do you think?
Well, we're kind of split on it. Is it stupid? Yeah, and it's stupid in the second minute, as stupid as it was in the 77th. And I think you and I agreed with it, so it's maybe just as well Des isn't here. But whatever your opinion, what a stupid thing for a professional footballer to do.
What do you think he does? Because, like, Neil Lennon said at the end of the game, he said he slipped. He didn't mean to handle the ball. Is the Ayr United player getting the shot away, though? That is the big question I've heard from a lot of people. Is it enough of a goal-scoring opportunity that he's the Ayr United player, I think it's Henderson, is definitely going to get that shot away? That's the big question. Is it a red card, is it not?
My opinion is no. I don't think that at any point he was in enough control of the ball to be having a decent dig at it. If it's denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, and we've all seen them, when the incident happens, the first thing you think is, "Oh, goal." Mm-hmm. This wasn't the case, and I've heard people saying that Wanyama deliberately punched it over towards the covering defender. I don't think that there was enough thought involved in it. I think it was a yellow, but it's had an opinion. I couldn't argue with people saying that it was a deliberate, obvious goal scoring opportunity. It's one of those things. I don't agree with a red card. A yellow would have done for me.
We'll get Des's thoughts late, hopefully when he comes on the show later. But we'll go into the Premiership action. 6 games, obviously big games on Saturday that we'll cover kind of every game. The one thing we had this weekend was goals, but we'll start at Aberdeen. Aberdeen 4, Motherwell 1. A couple of incidents that I wanted to touch on. One that I completely slipped my mind until there was a clip. Des is just about to join us now. Just right in time. We'll ask him about Wanyama first. But yeah, I mean, like, the weekend was so fascinating and goals were just the name of the game. But I wanted to start with Victor Wanyama. Des, you are live on the show. Welcome aboard.
Sorry, guys. I was preoccupied there. I had to get something done. So, sorry, one and all.
That's absolutely fine. Des, myself and Steve were talking about... We're talking about 6 Premiership games where there was goals, there was drama, but we started in the Championship. Victor Wanyama.
Yeah, we want to hear your ludicrous opinion on it.
My ludicrous opinion?
Yeah. because it's different from me and Scott's.
See, if any of you are saying it's not a red card, then I'll just get back off.
Do you
Right?
think he gets a shot away?
Doesn't matter if he gets a shot away. Yes, I do think he'll get the shot away. Right, I do think he will. However, the wording of the law is denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah.
What Wanyama's done is he's done the front crawl. He's went down it and he's hooked that ball away.
It's funny though, it is.
And
Though it's
when you look at
it's the best Shaquille O'Neal impersonation I've ever seen.
that's it. See if you actually look at if he's lying in the grass and you actually just tilt the picture up, it looks like he's going for a slam dunk. If you turned it up. But the big thing that's telling for me was when you see that footage from behind the goals, the goalkeeper actually changes his body position and moves. The covering defender wasn't going to get there, and it doesn't matter. It was going to shoot at goal. It's a red card.
Neil Lennon said he slapped.
Doesn't matter. He slapped the ball. He's grabbed it.
I think the big thing is, though, I think the big debate about it is he going to get the shot away? I don't think anybody's doubting the fact that he's obviously denying an attacking phase of play from happening. It's whether it's an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. Now, that's maybe something that the laws of the game maybe need to be a bit more specific on. I'm okay with it. Like, I'd be okay with a yellow. I'm not like going to, like, there's one incident that we'll cover in the first Premiership game where I'm like, I can't believe he's not gave a red card for that, but I know it's a different thing. But I think I'm okay. Like, I'm not like going to town and saying this is a scandalous decision. But it's one of those where like I'm not clear on it either. Like, I think we could see the same thing in a different game next week, and I think it'd be a different view.
But remember, you're talking humans. There's no unanimous. And that, as we discussed, I'm at variance with Des. I think a yellow would have done, but I certainly wouldn't be. I'm not complaining that it was a red. It's a matter of opinion. It's not my word. It's not ludicrous. It wasn't stupid. Well, it is. But the decision wasn't stupid. It's you pay your money, you take your choice. So I'm going for yellow. Des is going for red. You know that's a pub debate.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I've got numerous messages last night from players and some people within football, managers, coaches, etc. I'll share with us privately, and you want to see the responses. It's quite funny.
And I can't remember who sent it, and obviously wouldn't name them. Was saying there should be just a really stupid category of red card that cover it. But what you were saying, Scott, how can you clamp down on that, or how can you redo the wording? You can't. Mm-hmm. You can't cover every eventuality. So I'm going yellow, but perfectly happy to accept that other people think it's a red. No hassles.
Let's go to Aberdeen Motherwell, Des. Before you came on, obviously we were actually talking about, we'll cover the red card, the possible red card in a minute, but there was something I wanted to touch on that completely slipped my mind until I think you had posted it on our group chat, and I think I'd seen it on social media later on in the day. There was an incident with a counter-attack where, try and explain it, because I don't think I'll do it justice, because I think Des, obviously, it's a bit of a tough one, but one that I think you're very much in the view should have just been let to, play to the whistle is probably the best way to put it. Yeah,
I think it was Ross Hardy. It was Ross Hardy. The foul took place probably about 10-15 yards from the halfway line, and the Aberdeen player was fouled. The Motherwell defender has got, right behind them, you've got like 50 yards of open space that the Aberdeen player has got a promising attack within. Now, I'm not saying that the Motherwell players have been red carded for, we've just said, denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity, because there's still far too much work to be done. But why the need to blow so quickly? You can let that play out. If he's a couple of yards from the penalty area, etc., and there's a crowd around him, then he's not going to be advantaged. But he had 40 yards of advantage to run into. I think that was just a wee bit naive and a wee bit too whistle happy to jump in at that moment in time. I think that was unfortunately unnecessary. But listen, Ross will learn from that. Don Robertson was fourth official, VAR, so he cannot get involved at that moment in time. It's got nothing to do with him. But unfortunately, Ross has just been, a bit trigger happy there, and Aberdeen were it never had an outcome on the game, thankfully. But Aberdeen were unfortunate there.
Yep.
Steve, is that just one of those where all just like we see it with the big thing? Like my dad was talking about this a couple of weeks ago when I was watching a game with him. He said, "I cannot stand the flag thing when it's a clear offside, but they're told to keep the flag down." Is this one of those similar where he just keeps the whistle and he's like it doesn't blow until it stops because you're just, as Des says, you're potentially ruining a game scoring opportunity.
Aye, oh, absolutely. Nine times out of 10, and we've lauded Ross. He didn't have his best weekend, but we've lauded him. He's a damn good referee. 9 times out of 10, he's letting that go.
Yeah.
But it was just unfortunate at the weekend was the one that he blew too soon. And I'm sure he's watched it over and thought, oh my God, what have I done? But that's human frailty, and we just need to accept it. Des is saying is that football's a game of skill and error. Hopefully that's an error that Ross doesn't make again. But there's no there's no excuses for it. He should not have blown that quickly. But hopefully that'll make sure that he doesn't do it again next time.
Well, there was a big incident in this game between Papi Gay and Andy Halliday. The score was 1-1 at this time, funnily enough. Obviously, Motherwell took the lead in Aberdeen and equalised after 13 minutes, but I think this happened just before the half-hour mark. Bit of a bad tackle, given as a yellow card on field. VAR don't get involved or don't ask the referee to go and look at it. Des, I thought with this one, like there's no attempt to play the ball for me.
No, it's a shocker. It's an absolute shocker. He's off the ground, which therefore means you're not in control.
Yes.
He's scissored Andrew. I still call him Andrew because I told him. So he's scissored Andrew dangerously. That is every single. You look at speed, intent, opportunity to play the ball. Ticks all the boxes. And again, that is where I thought Don should have got involved, because that is what VAR is there for. It's there to clear a correct and obvious error. And unfortunately, that was a clear and obvious error. It's a red card all day long. There is, use Steve's word, mitigation. There is no mitigation for that. It's not a Forbes challenge, as some people say. It's just a bad challenge, and it should have been punished by a red card.
Steve, disagree? Or?
No disagreement at all. The only thing, Mr. Mitigation, Ross had a clear, he was looking right in on it, but I think unfortunately he was looking right in at the bit where there was no action happening.
That's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought as well.
So he didn't see the scissor, so he has assumed that it was just a caution that he slid in. He hasn't seen the full extent of it. Don would have, and again, and one mistake doesn't mean that you're not the best. Don's still our best ref, but he should have got involved in that one. That was a clear red every day of the week.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that the referee didn't give it, because I think I don't think his view is like obstructed, but I think he's looking at a different angle of it. Like, I think he doesn't see the contact. I don't think he sees the recklessness of tackle. It's a very bad challenge, but I think it's more the VAR. Like, as I say, that's why we're delaying games, and I think every time I've seen it, I'm like, I'm even more convinced every time I see it that it's a red card.
I think he's quite lucky as well that certainly Andrew didn't, and the Motherwell players, there was a bit of it, but there wasn't massive remonstrations around them. It wasn't like an old Man United and the referee's been harangued and hounded. So that's maybe got him away with it, but it doesn't doesn't lessen the severity.
Let's move into Celtic 3, Hearts 0. Not much in this game, just one wee incident that was discussed as well. Celtic had a possible penalty shout. It was a handball by Harry Milne, who's obviously just joined Hearts from Partick Thistle. Des, is it one of those where it just that he's not able to get his hand out of the way?
Yeah, and I'm glad that it wasn't given. This time last year, potentially, may have seen it been given.
Yes.
Yeah, so he can't really do anything about it. He's got his hands out. We'll accept that. But I'm actually really glad that wasn't given. That was probably a highlight of the weekend, that common sense prevailed there and went, no, I'm not accepting that. Get on. Yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't a penalty kick. It was certainly unnecessary.
Steve, does it get given last year? And do you think it should have been given this weekend?
I don't have a doubt it gets given last year. And I don't, I'm the same, with my thoughts on handball. I don't think that that's a penalty, but I was a bit surprised that Kevin looked as though he gave a free kick to Hearts.
Yes.
Foul was. Watched it over and over, didn't see what
Didn't see a foul.
Unless he's assumed that there was a slight push by Maeda. But that notwithstanding, I don't think that that's a penalty. It certainly would have been last year, but where did he get the foul from?
A lot of people, I was speaking to a few Celtic fans today, and they said that Kevin Clancy's performance was poor. I have watched the game back. I don't think it's like putting up trees, but I don't think it's like a terrible refereeing performance. I don't think that was the case. There was a few things where he maybe let go too long, but again, I don't think it was a terrible refereeing performance. No. Hibs 3, St Johnstone 0. Just one incident. This a penalty was given and scored by Bowie. The Bowie was actually fouled by St Johnstone's below this. There's no doubt about it to me.
Yeah, it was clumsy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's all you can say. It was just a clumsy, needless trip. I don't even think Simo Valakari could have any doubts with that.
Nah.
Yeah, penalty kick.
Steve, it's one of those where the game's gone, tiredness kicks in. I think it's just a bit, not a lazy challenge, but I think it's just one of those where I don't think he can really not make it, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's just that late in the game and he can't really.
You knew it was coming, but I'm just going to say one slight thing going back to the Celtic game, and it doesn't make a difference to anything. At Celtic's second goal, why was Craig Gordon berating Kevin?
No idea.
I don't know. Actually, that's what there was a lot of people talk about that. I don't know still what he was what happened
in his face. God, he's maybe saying
it.
Crap, but there we go.
The one I was laughing at, I thought you were going to say, was it the first goal that the ball goes and Kevin steps over the ball, sort of lets him do a wee sort of nutmeg. Kevin's never done a football brain in his life.
That was purely accidental.
Oh, listen, I remember him playing 5 at St Andrews.
It's a normal night, he'd have blooted that into the top corner. But the St Johnstone one, yeah, one of those things. Although I maybe saw it wrong, it said there was a thing up on the screen saying VAR decision penalty. Did VAR get involved?
I think he's reviewed it.
I think they reviewed it. I think the ref did give it.
Because I was thinking, why the hell did VAR need to give that? But I've just misseen it. That's fine. No, penalty. Nothing else to say about it.
St Mirren 5, Kilmarnock 1. There's a result that one person I spoke to in particular did see coming, but three penalty incidents. 2 were given, 1 wasn't. We'll start with the first one. Lewis Mayo on Jonah Ayunga. It's at the kind of edge of the box. What do you think? That's the first one.
Not a penalty kick.
Okay.
It's very soft. I'll take it every day of the week, but
it's 1 out of the 3, I would say, probably. I would say the second one that isn't given is more of a penalty than this one.
Yeah, I would agree. I just think that one, if you're a defender and you're a manager of it, if it was against my team, I'd be deeply upset. Thankfully, the scoreline was sufficient enough that it didn't. It did count because it was the first goal. But I'm surprised Nick jumping in like that. And again, reviewed on VAR. Not every foul, not every physical contact's a foul, and not every contact in the penalty area is a penalty. Yeah, I think it was very, very soft, but I'll take it.
It was a bad day for Kilmarnock. Steve, the second one was not given. It was right on Idowu. I thought this was quite harsh. This one, to me, I thought was a penalty. The second one.
Again, I'm kind of on the fence on that one. I could see it either direction. I'm surprised that he didn't give it. I think it was more than the first one, but neither of them are, use whatever phrase you want, nailed on, barn door, whatever you want. So I wouldn't argue either way. So I'm okay with it not being given. But I did want to point out that Nick played a blinding advantage in the lead up to that.
Yes, he did.
So you need to commend good things. So I'm not going to criticise or condone either of the first two penalty decisions. They could go either way. I did write down for the first one, went down a bit easily in inverted commas, but we've all seen them.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's not to be the loving, but yeah, I don't disagree with it. I think the first one extremely soft. Second one certainly more of a save for it. Nick played in a great advantage, allowing the attack to continue. If he had given it, I wouldn't have any issues with it at all. In fact, I'd be happier with the second one.
Des, is the Kilmarnock penalty, like I've been having a wee bit of a joke with a couple of Kilmarnock fans that I know, is the Kilmarnock penalty one of the most sympathetic, feel sorry penalties you've ever seen? But it is a penalty, but you can tell it's just like, right, the game's gone, just give the Kilmarnock fans something.
Aye, pretty much. pretty much. They're going back up the road after getting an absolute scudding, so it's not going to be it. Did you actually look at the stats in the game?
I've got them. Yep.
Kelly had 58% possession in a game that got beat 5-1. 58%.
Wow.
That's massive. So it just shows you what the game is like. To go and get battered 5-1 and you get more of the ball, Dale won't be happy with that.
No, he won't. That one.
8 shots on target for St Mirren, 1 for Kilmarnock. Like, again, like St Mirren obviously had less of the ball, but by God, they were taking more of their chances. Do you know what I mean? They were getting whatever they were taking. It's clinical. Kilmarnock are struggling. There's like, again, like I didn't think at the start of the season we would be talking about Kilmarnock in a relegation battle, but here we are.
Ultimately, I don't think they will be.
I don't think they will be, but
I
they
think
need to sort it out.
And I think he will. He's too good a manager to allow that to happen. Do you know what? They're just having a bad season. The amount of red cards they've had earlier on in the year, the suspensions, obviously the injury to the big boy in centre half. They've had a lot to deal with, but I still think they'll, between Derek and Paul Shearer and Ali Archibald, they'll make sure that Kilmarnock are fine. And listen, do you know what? He's allowed a bad season now and then because he's been great for so long.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Kilmarnock and Hearts are very similar because I don't think I've ever seen Kilmarnock and Hearts have 2 good seasons in a row. They either have like one tremendous season and then it's one disastrous season. There's never like a medium. They always either like go up or down. But going to 5:30 on Saturday, like if you want a game of pinball, you could have just watched this. Like Dundee 3, Rangers 4. Like who needs Britain's Got Talent in the 1% club? This was as entertaining as you'll get on Saturday night. Steve, I'll come to you for the first one. The Dundee had a goal disallowed in the first half. Now, this would have been unbelievable for Dundee. I think this would have put them 3-0 up because I think this is before Rangers' first goal. Mulligan gets penalised for a foul on Yilmaz. What do you think of this? I think it's a foul.
Again, I'm probably going to be Mr. Skelf in the bum today. Do I think it's a foul? I'm not complaining that he thought it was a foul. I might have given it differently myself, but I don't think that you can argue over, reasonable in inverted commas fouls. So I'm not going to argue with them. Would I have given it as a foul? I don't think so. But I'm not arguing the toss that he did think it was a foul. Again, go back to what we said earlier. It's impossible to have 100% of a game of football that you agree with every decision that's made, and if it's a foul in midfield or whatever that I think is a foul and somebody else doesn't, I'm not going to argue with that. But I don't think I would have given it, but I'm not arguing with the fact that it was given.
Des, what do you think of that one? Because obviously it's a massive goal for Dundee if it stands. Yeah,
it's a big call. You know me, I'm always quite happy to go one side of the fence and give my yes or no. Did I think it was a foul when I first seen it? Probably not. I'll be honest, probably not. When I watched it on BBC, like the rest of us, and we've seen the replays, there wasn't enough evidence to say that it definitely was a foul. I mean, David Dickinson was right on top of it, so he did have a good view, and he blew very early. I mean, he blew straight away. He blew before the ball was struck towards goal for the ultimate goal that didn't stand. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say conclusively that it was a foul or it wasn't, and purely because of that, I've got to try and support the referee there because he was so close to it. He's blown early. He's also convinced in his own mind of what he's seen. VAR aren't going to get involved in that. So it's purely the only person in the pitch that can make that decision was David. Do I think Rangers were potentially lucky? Yes, absolutely. I think they were potentially lucky, but purely for the sole reason that you couldn't determine if we got the ball, it was a foul, then you've got to support the referee's on-field decision.
Wee bit of breaking news coming in here. I think, like I say, breaking news. It's something I just want to see your reactions. Václav Cherny will face no police action. That's a Daily Record headline, by the way. Václav Cherny will face no police action over Watergate after the authorities ended their probe and confirmed no criminality had taken place.
Good.
Surprise, surprise. And
Good.
we've had her say he was, what words did we use? He was just infantile, churlish, exuberant. You can't do that sort of thing. So, we'll do it there. He'll be censured. He'll be told not to do it again. But
at least there's no government inquiry this time.
I thought that's the reason he maybe missed the game. I thought he was maybe in the nearest cop shop.
In the pokey.
Yes. Rangers had a couple of penalty incidents. Obviously, they went and won the game, but a couple of ones that weren't given. The first one was Silla on Balogun. Steve, what did you think of this one? Like, I thought that of the two penalty incidents, this was the one where I was like, I watched it back and think, I could see that being given.
I could see it being given, but I'm happy that it wasn't. The more I looked at it, it looked to me like it was a.
That's because you're a Celtic supporter.
I've got impartial specs on. But there will be people saying he wouldn't give it because he supports the other lot. But I think it was more of a fresh air swipe for the Dundee player. I don't think if there was contact, there wasn't enough to put a fit, healthy, full-time athlete down on his hunkers, roaring in agony. So, nah, not for me.
Des, the next one's a bit more interesting because this is a massive point in the game. The game's at 3 each at this point. Garza on Danilo. The way I looked at it was Danilo kind of gets in front first, but I think, and you might disagree, I think he's on his way down before the contact with Garza.
Yeah, I don't think this was a penalty. Again, it's one of those tight ones. I think Garza has got there a fraction ahead of him, but like you, I think Danilo has tried to anticipate and read the situation as it's coming in, which for me, I'll support the referee on it. I don't think there was enough in it to give it a penalty. I'm not saying it was a dive or anything. I don't think at all. But I think it's just trying to read the situation that never arose.
Steve, agree?
Yeah, but I've absolutely no doubt that phrase is going to come back to Des. That'll be a one side using that. Try to anticipate the situation. Brilliant, Des.
Oh, my phone's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Going to Sunday, one game, but probably more drama than the rest combined. We'll go to Ross County 0, Dundee United 1. There were 3 penalty incidents here, and VAR decided that none of them were penalties. I think the first one was given, and then it was rescinded, and then the second 2, the ref didn't give it, and VAR decided to agree with the referee. We'll start with the one that was given, Steve, the Nisbet incident on Dalby. The ref obviously sees contact. The VAR disagrees. Where do you sit?
Which one was that one?
That was the first one. That was one that was given.
Oh, the first one I thought was a total dive.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I'm not the only person who's used that word tonight.
Do you think it's a dive?
I underline cheat. I think it was a complete dive.
I think it's very soft. I don't know if I would say dive. I think it's similar.
Has he anticipated the situation?
That's what exactly the phrase I was going to go. That's the name of the show. Anticipated the situation. It would have been soft. I think it was. I'm glad it was overturned.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the VAR got it spot on. Steve, what about the other 2? The ones that the referee and VAR were agreed on.
Second one, is that the one with the goalkeeper?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's the one I've heard most about. The goalkeeper wiping out the player. No, not for me. The goalkeeper's come out. He's made himself big, which is what the goalkeeper's meant to do. And then he's planked his feet and he's not moved.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys ran into him and had a triple sulco after it. What's the goalie meant to do?
Yeah,
he's got to be somewhere.
He's
and
entitled to do it.
He trip him, didn't have a go at him. He just stopped where he was. So nope, not for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Would you think a third one? The Doherty and Harman.
Nah, nothing.
Yeah.
No. Can't be given penalties for that.
So we're agreeing that all three weren't penalties.
Yeah.
Yep.
My one conclusion for this game, and this is one of the very few games that I have actually watched live without any interruptions all season. So congratulations to everyone who helped with that. It's not very often that I agree with Michael Stewart, Steve, but one thing that he brought up I thought was very interesting. There was an incident a couple of yards outside the box where Ronan Hale, the referee, was adamant that he'd handballed, and he'd obviously put his hand in the ball. If you watch this back, it is one of the best bit of chest control you will see all weekend. But again, Michael Stewart says something very interesting that I thought all weekend, particularly in this game. The referee goes purely on the shout in the crowd. Like, he absolutely goes by the reaction, because to me, you cannot see that's a handball.
I'll agree with that, but you can't you can't say that he went by the shout of the crowd. You just can't. I knowing Stephen, he'll have. No, don't you agree? He'll have given what he saw. Now, we've all made mistakes and we've all seen the wrong thing, and you know what? It's not the first. It won't be the last. But I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Stephen didn't go by the shout.
I think it's one of those where he maybe doesn't go by the shout, but I don't think he can't see a handball there because his hands are nowhere near. To me, it's like you only see the chest control. Like, you can't see anything other than that.
Absolutely agree with you, but I've got no doubt that Stephen saw a handball. Don't agree with him, but no doubt.
Have we lost Des? I think we have maybe lost Des, but yeah, I mean, like, a fascinating weekend in the Premiership. Obviously, we will be back next weekend. We've got a full card next weekend as well. Nothing really happening during the week. We've obviously got a couple of championship games. Des is back. Des, I was bringing up there, I don't know if you heard that, about the incident with Ronan Hale, who was thought by the referee to handle the ball. I thought the referee, Stephen McLean, goes by the crowd reaction. And I think with that, I think Michael Stewart gets it spot on, that I think he purely guesses. I don't think he sees it, because you can't see a handball on it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with it, and it's not like Stephen Flynn. You can't be swayed by the crowd, and if you haven't seen something with your own eyes, then you shouldn't be making that judgment. So yeah, it did seem a wee bit. It didn't sit comfortably, but hey, it's done. And as you say as well, it's not often terribly many would agree with Michael Stewart.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've agreed with him very often, but it was literally what he brought up. He said it was a guessing game. I do think that's a problem that a lot of referees had, and certain Willie Collum had brought that up during the week. Actually, I wanted to bring this up because I've literally,
talking about guessing.
I've just watched the
Guessing
Scottish
Mr.
Sun.
Broadfoot in the same situation.
The Scottish Sun interview that I've literally just watched. Can I say to the Scottish Sun? I don't know if they watch this. Get Bill Leckie a mic. Like, did you hear it? Like, I hardly heard a word they said.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, I watched it. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You don't need. It's a Scottish Sun. You don't need two mics. You can get 3 mics for 3 people. Any takeaways from his interview, Des? First of all, like, a couple of things he brought up I wanted to talk about. He was very vocal on, actually, somebody I know quite well, Jamie McConney, obviously now Category 1. Sean Thompson's the same. So he's very vocal about getting ex-players in. I don't think there'll be many ex-players who will be making the step up, do you?
Who was the guy years ago? Was it Jim Laughlin?
Dundee United.
And he
was going to referee?
Aye.
I don't know that.
He was the first one that they were almost sort of trying to push through.
Yeah.
You've now obviously got Sean Murdoch doing it as well. listen, just because you're a good referee doesn't mean you're going to be a good player, or you were a good player.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're going to be a good referee. I'm not of the opinion that ex-players should be fast-tracked and pushed through. You've got to have the right mentality, the right mannerisms. You've got to have the right management skills as well, because you're managing 22 highly charged players on a pitch as well as the sidelines as well. I know what Willie's trying to do. He's trying to come across as having this better public persona than predecessors, etc. And listen, he's putting himself out there.
See, to be fair to him, he spoke more than any of the others before him.
Yeah,
like,
I think he's very much following the Howard Webb school of self publicisation. Howard Webb doing his stuff with BT and Michael Owen and stuff like that, and that seems to be the way that Willie's doing it, which isn't a surprise. He's putting himself out there, but do I agree with him all the time? No, I don't agree with him all the time, and it'll be interesting to see how this continues.
Mm-hmm. Steve, if the 14-year question was finally answered to a degree that he did admit that he got the penalty wrong with Broadfoot to a degree. I don't think he fully exonerated himself, but he certainly said that it was one of those he said now wasn't a penalty, but he still tried to say that he saw it. He didn't.
No, there's absolutely not a shadow of doubt that he saw it. He was looking the opposite direction.
Yes.
And for him to say he saw it late, so late he watched it on the telly that night, there's no chance he saw anything in that, but still gave it appalling decision. And I think we would all have a wee bit more credit if he just went, do you know what, made an arse of that.
Will admitting to a mistake?
Well, he's admitted to a certain extent when he's admitted that. Did he say possibly? He possibly got it wrong. But Willie's not the sort of person who will come out and say, yep, made an arse of that.
Again.
It's not in his nature. But it's more of maybe it's a sign of growing up a wee bit that he said that he maybe didn't call it quite right because he saw it a bit late. Aye.
What, 14 years later?
It's the first time though, again, this was we probably could do a separate podcast on this, but it was one of the first times I've heard Willie asked, I don't think he's ever been asked this before, about the full-time referees debate. Like, he said something that I have very much agreed with. I don't think making referees full-time makes them better.
No, it doesn't. Just, are they going to train more? Aye, possibly. But it still doesn't make...
It was very vocal, to be fair to him. He said there was 43 coaching sessions on, mobile coaching sessions since he took over, which I matched to one a week. So they're certainly doing the coaching. It's whether it's getting enacted, I think, is the question.
Yeah, Des and I both know how much time you put in when you're a full-time, in inverted commas, ref. There's some weeks, depending on whether it's the gathered training session, whether it's your monthly meeting, whether it's meetings that you're called to at Hampden, you've got to hand in your training data, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's already a hell of a commitment. People think, oh, you turn up at your game an hour and a half before a game on Saturday. They don't know the half of it. So making it 40 hours a week, it's not going to make the blindest bit of difference. You'll be fitter, you'll be better prepared, but it's not going to make you any better.
No, do you think though that it's maybe something that is purely a budget thing? Do you think if there was a money for it, it would happen? Because to me, you're asking a lot of people with that. That's one thing he brings up as well. Looking at something I didn't know until I'd kind of started talking to yourselves. A lot of referees who are in a lot of really high-paying jobs who I don't think are going to turn like. I mean, I don't think they're going to knock that. I'd imagine healthy wage packet to go full-time ref.
Well, I'm a doctor, so I'm better paid than most. But I've got, unless something drastic happens, I've got a lifelong contract. If I went a full-time ref and gave up doctoring, I've got a year-on-year contract. And the relationship with the SFA that Des and I had, there's not a chance that you're getting a career out of it. No. So I'm giving up my job to have 1 year's guaranteed reffing. And assuming that it would be like they do in England. You've got you've got your retainer, and then you've got a match per or a fee match. Your money depends entirely on whether they agree with how you're performing or whether they like you. So not a hope I'm giving up my job to be full-time ref.
Because he said this as well, and I don't know if this is right, but he said that particularly a Premier League referee in England, if they obviously don't make it, they get 2 years' salary after they leave. I didn't know that. Like, again, that's just something Wally said. I'm like, I haven't checked, I haven't fact checked it or anything like that. But like, to me, like that's yes, it's kind of 2 years where you can get guaranteed money and try and find other income. But the problem we've got with that, Des, is that if you decide you're not out for a referee, you've got 2 years. Yeah, you'll make 2 years worth of money, but your motivation kind of goes when you're. I'd imagine for a lot of referees, being a full-time referee is probably what they want to do, certainly at that point in their life. Like, you're there, it's a long 2 years to try and get back into the work environment after basically having guaranteed money to do nothing.
Yeah, well, obviously Steve working in the medical profession. I'm a school teacher. I'm a principal teacher, so it's taken me a number of years to get that position. It's taken Steve a number of years to get to that position. I've got to look at it as well that if I take that amount of time away, am I going to get back in?
Yes.
In the teaching profession, the way it is just now, there are less and less jobs available. Not even at the promoted level, just to get in there. I know numerous guys that have went to university, guys and girls who went to university, studied to be a teacher, and are no longer in the profession because the number of jobs just aren't there. Unfortunately, my next door neighbour, his son, now I stay in Renfrewshire, he's now working temporarily up in the Highlands because it's the only place he can get, and it isn't a guaranteed role. Again, added to that, I've got to look at, if I was going to give up my career to go full-time refereeing, A, what's the recompense? B, I've got a pension as well.
Yeah.
I've got the holidays that I'm off at the same time as my children. I've got a wife, her working environment. It doesn't appeal to me to be a full-time referee. Absolutely not. What it would do is it gives you more time to prepare for games. I will give them that. Your recovery, your driving on day. I mean, Steve, how many times have we been at work, had to leave at lunchtime to go to Inverness, Aberdeen, etc., then getting home at 2 o'clock in the morning and having to go to work the next day?
Yeah, I know.
So, but it's probably a debate that we can have over the summer months. But we're going to wrap up there. We'll be back next weekend with no doubt another fascinating weekend. All that is left for me to do is to thank our two guests as always. First of all, Steve Conroy.
Cheers, Scott. Thoroughly enjoyed that.
Pleasure. And to Des Roach, thank you very much for coming in.
Cheers, Scott. Sorry I was a wee bit late, but
always a pleasure.
Always good.
Thank you very much, folks. We'll see you all soon. Cheers.